Hello and welcome to NJBIZ Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Kanij. My guest today is Aiysha Johnson. She is the Executive Director and CEO of NJCPA, the New Jersey Society of Certified Public Accountants. AJ, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking the time. I'd like to start with getting your assessment of the sort of the state of the profession. You've been in this role now for over a year, and I know you've done a lot of talking and listening to folks around the state. I'm just curious about how you're taking the temperature of what people are thinking, how they're approaching their work, how they're approaching the economy. What is your feeling about the way things are going in the profession right now? What are you hearing, and what have you observed?
Yeah, so first I will say that accounting remains a great profession, but there are challenges. And so accounting firms are doing well. I feel that they are still looking at innovative ways to attract talent, but I've heard some great stories on being able to do so, showing the culture, showing that the value and the impact of the work that new CPAs candidates, can come in to the profession and make a difference. So that's positive. Now, the pressure still remains on the staffing pipeline, and that's not just in New Jersey, that's across the board. And that's partially because baby boomers are retiring at a faster rate than we can replace them with new graduates and CPAs. And then we also have some leakage in the pipeline when it comes to the mid-level managers who are making decisions on what they would like to do, if they would like to be at a firm, corporate accounting, career changers, et cetera. So all of those are factors for what we see now in the profession. And then when we think about opportunities, technology, working remotely, hybrid opportunities for the workforce, I think that that's attractive for new accounting professionals coming in, and they can actually realize some of that flexibility where they're not making decisions for work versus family, but they can kind of balance both. And so technology has been positive there. Depending on who you talk to, outsourcing has helped to fill some of the gaps. But, overall, firms are looking at the best ways to attract talent to meet their needs and still provide value back to, I would say, the new graduates, but just as a whole, right, to be attractive as a profession, we have to think about adapting to all of the changes. And so there's a lot of uncertainty out there and a lot of changes that's being driven by mergers and acquisitions, private equity, and adjusting to, these new growth models, if that's expansion of certain services. So there's a lot that firm leaders are looking at and addressing, but I think the key is that everyone is aware that change is occurring very rapidly right now. We have to be responsive to the changes and where possible, proactive to show the value.
Okay. Well, you touched on a lot of the different things that I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, when I talk to folks, firm leaders and others in the profession, and it's not just accounting, it's across the board. Recruiting and retention is a primary concern. You mentioned a couple of things that were going on with that. I know that there's come some programs involving big firms and working with schools to sort of try to get that pipeline more robust. What does it come down to? Is it something that individual firms and firm leaders need to address, as you said, sort of selling the culture and the value of the work? Is it the schools that need to pitch in, and is it organizations like yours? I mean, who has to do what in this scenario to try to get, because everybody is worried about it, and it's become a huge concern. It's among the first things that I hear when I talk to folks in the business.
I'm glad that you asked the question, because this gives me a chance to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, and that's the
Okay.
fact that we all need to be thinking about this. So it's not, the onus is not just on firm leaders, it's part of the equation, but societies, state societies like NJCPA, we have all formed various task forces. We have a pipeline advocacy work group, and we're working with local business advocacy groups ourselves to consider partnerships for long-term and short-term opportunities. That may include changes that we may want to push through eventually at the state level, may include some legislation, working with universities, working with high schools, various colleges, getting our chapters involved. And then when it comes to universities, you mentioned the work for credit type programs where there's firm partnerships with specific universities. And
Right.
so that's all part of the equation today. I don't see that changing because educators need to be aware of what firm leaders are looking for in order to, be viable. And when it comes to recruiting and bringing in new graduates, NJCPA, as an example, we have a program called Accelerating Scholars in Accounting. And we basically expose 50 or so college students to various firm leaders within NJCPA. And then we also gave them some personal and professional development opportunities to look at presentation skills and business development to really understand those essential skills that will dovetail nicely with your technical skills. And that's what's needed, obviously, as you think about opportunities for leadership in the future and to just be well-rounded. So it's everybody's role. We all have a part to play.
Okay, and you did mention high schools, and I know a lot of again a lot of industries are sort of coming to the realization that they need to reach down earlier to try to get even younger people, not just at college level or even graduate level, but at the secondary school level. How big a part of that will that kind of outreach play in solving the problem that you're talking about?
I think it's very important in terms of awareness. So if you can reach students sooner in high school and they're at least aware of accounting, in which we've seen that depending on the school, the resources, what the administrators know about accounting, accounting may never be discussed as a career option. So we'd like to change that
Right.
and make sure that accounting is a core part of the understanding, because accounting is the foundation for any business, the language of business. So regardless of, and that's what makes accounting such a great profession, is that you can serve literally in any industry. And so from private to public firms, private companies, startups, the options are just unlimited. And we want young people to at least understand that if they want to do work that's impactful, that accounting could be a viable pathway for them.
Okay. You also mentioned changes from technology. Obviously, again, that's across the board, especially since the pandemic, the rise of remote and hybrid work. I'm curious as to whether how technology, what you see the role of technology playing in a business that traditionally, at least, has been based on relationships, on interpersonal relationships, like law, like banking, anything that sort of involves that kind of service, providing a service to businesses and getting in front of people. How is the profession adapted, and how is it dealing with those kinds of changes?
So accounting will always be a relationship-based profession. That relationship is very important, but what creates the strong relationship? And that's the trust that your CPA can advise you not just in technical matters, but can be proactive to help you think about growth for your business. Usually our CPAs have really great stories about them being, if not the first person that's called, let's say a family-owned business, if there's a change, they're the first person or at the very top of the list to call in terms of, looking for those advisory type services to help owners think through next steps. So we hear a lot about artificial intelligence. And I know that from small firms to mid-sized to large firms, everybody is thinking about artificial intelligence. So you may ask, like, what are the practical applications
I was going to
for?
ask.
Oh, okay. So some of the firms are exploring workflow efficiencies and other internal opportunities. Also, AI is being used for marketing. And I would just say that obviously you need the human intelligence to be able to still check AI, but it definitely helps with some tax, routine functions. So if you can pull out those routine functions for your tax preparation and audit, then that can help you to be more efficient with the use of AI. And small firms, when I talk to small firm leaders, there's ways that they could just start with using AI for maybe draft documentation and other types of uses. So I think that what will we see with technology and the rapid changes? I think that's to be determined overall. But today I know that there are still very important practical uses that are
Absolutely.
being,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's one of the things I was getting at was,
Mhm.
can technology, particularly artificial intelligence, help with retention, for example? Obviously, the hours can be long and stressful. If you have technology that can relieve some of that, I assume there'll be benefits throughout the firms.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
So someone gave me an example when they started in accounting that, part of their function, the responsibility was to send faxes. Well, we don't have to worry about that
Yeah.
now. So maybe with AI, there's something else that could be done to take off the routine, mundane assignments and kind of get your new graduates exposed sooner to other opportunities within the firm and client-facing experiences.
Okay. You also mentioned consolidation. Obviously, that's played a large role in shaping the industry as it is today, especially in New Jersey. I'm curious, number one, whether you see that continuing or whether it's run its course, and then two, is there a sweet spot for a firm size in the current environment, particularly in a state like New Jersey? It's there's a lot of big companies, there's a lot of economic activity. I'm curious as to whether that will continue to drive consolidation. What do you see happening there in terms of firms combining and getting bigger, or trying to maintain a sort of a small feel?
Okay, so I will start with the last part of your question
Okay.
first. Because I think that what I've noticed is that the independent accounting firms who are doing well in their markets are often viewed very favorably in terms of acquisitions and to be able to bring them into, say, a larger firm. And so I think that there's more pressure on independent accounting firms to stay independent and
Okay.
to be really competitive. So they have to think about their mix of services, growth, all of that, because they're constantly being called, to consider merging in or being, acquired, especially when you have developed a strong relationships, strong services, you're known as a leader, you even have specific niche services that might be attractive to a larger firm. So a lot of that activity you see around acquiring these independent firms. But then overall, you also see activity as large firms seek to expand talent, services, they're looking at their operations, they're looking at technology, they're looking at, to your point, they're looking at what will be that sweet spot, right, for them to continue to be leaders, but then to grow exponentially over time.
Okay.
So what you could think of as the hourglass, where the larger firms continue to get larger, maybe the middle kind of thins out a bit, and then you have the smaller firms. And so all of the firms, we're going to need people to do the work, because let's say a small to mid-sized firm may will serve different clients than the large firms. And it's key. Some of the key opportunities, I think, for smaller firms is that when they bring in talent into their firm, they'll be able to expose them to an array of offerings, a suite of offerings, and kind of get that hands-on experience right away. And so I don't see this going away, this type of activity going away.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
anytime soon. I just don't see that happening. And I think that we will probably continue to see consolidation, entry of more private equity, working through mergers and acquisitions. I think we'll see that for a while.
Okay. But there still is a role for small firms. Obviously, there's a lot of small
Yes,
businesses in the state who aren't necessarily going to want, or need the services of PwC or EY or something like that. They
correct.
the accountant down the street that they know and
Yes,
grew up with or went to high school with.
yes. Yes, and so that actually speaks to why it's critically important for us to, ensure that there's people to do the work, because essentially we don't want to end up in a situation where your small business owner really doesn't have choices around finding, the local CPA firm who could help them and provide service. And then, when we think about like the municipalities and filing reports on time and private companies, it all matters. And so if we don't address this, it could really impact our economy over the long term, not just in the state, but throughout the nation. And so
Right.
it's really critical that we address the pipeline.
Okay. All right. Let's before I let you go, I'm curious about the business. We're just talking about consolidation, the state of the economy. Obviously, there's always tax changes and regulatory changes. With an election coming up, there's likely to be even more of that. What are you hearing from members about their outlook? Are they confident, optimistic? What do they think about the future of the business of accounting going forward?
Yeah, so there's I think everyone is pretty much waiting to see what's going to happen with the election, because that will, define what happens at the federal level as we think about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So right now, some of the hot button issues are estate taxes and any changes around that and planning for that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our CPAs have already confirmed that individuals have already started booking appointments to talk about potential changes in estate taxes and tax planning, and what that may look like depending on what happens, so that they're not caught off guard, and then planning for state and local tax deductions, inflation. Obviously, affordability here in New Jersey is something that will always be on the minds of our members, because their clients, small businesses, companies are dealing with that. And then recently we had the corporate transit fee, the 2.5% transit fee that was added to the larger companies here in the state. And so these are, to speak on New Jersey, we have to think about affordability. We have to think about the corporate tax rate. We have to think about lowering the interest rates and just making sure that the state has a business environment where people are attracted to the state and want to stay in the state. And then obviously the national issues that we have to pay attention to. So to answer your question in summary is that our members are already planning for it and having conversations with their clients as well.
Okay. I mean, as you say, Representative Josh Gottheimer just today or yesterday was talking again about state and local taxes. There are always tax changes that you folks are going to have to be dealing with.
Yes.
So given all of that,
yeah.
Where did you go? Given all of that, we'll get you back soon, I'm sure. What are your priorities for the organization going forward for the next sort of, for the rest of the year and into 2025? Are there certain issues that you think are more deserving of your attention than others?
Well, I would say in terms of priority, one major priority is ensuring that we can do whatever we can to alleviate any concerns around the accounting pipeline involving our members, working in partnership with universities, just doing our part. And I always like to say, leaving no stone unturned. So that's really a priority for me, and to continue to speak to firm leaders, continue to meet with them. That's so valuable to just hear their stories and kind of understand what's happening in New Jersey compared to nationally. And then another thing is just really our focus on our programs for college students. We've done a great job with that and awarding millions of dollars over the years in scholarships. So we're looking at how to be strategic. For me also, I am very much pushing a culture for advocacy so that we can let our issues be known, but then we can also talk in the same breath about solutions. So I will be busy with those types of efforts. And then obviously some of the things that we talked about, the technical issues, those will always have resources around those technical issues, but we want to make sure that the accounting profession is strong and viable in the future.
Okay, well, we will leave it there. Unfortunately, we've lost your video. I apologize to our viewers about that. We'll see what we can do. There, you're back. Thank you. Aiysha Johnson, Executive Director and CEO of NJCPA. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I hope you'll come back and talk about some of these other things that you're working on. That would be great.
I would be happy to.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, stay safe.
All right. Thank you.